Welcome to Myanmar Radio's Myanmar Today. I'm Melody, and here are today's reports. MR to provide regular rail service with reduced carriages. Highway bus service to all regions and states except Rakhine goes on amid COVID-19 resurgence. Online selling system gains popularity in book market during COVID-19 pandemic. Facility quarantine center in Nay Pyi Taw. Before we get to the reports, let's take a look at the featured local news for today. The 53rd ASEAN Foreign Ministers meeting began on Wednesday to discuss the fight against coronavirus and other regional issues. Union Minister for International Cooperation U Jo-tin attended the online summit from Nay Pyi Taw together with the foreign ministers of 10 Southeast Asian countries. Vietnamese Prime Minister Nguyen Xuan Phuc gave a speech at the opening ceremony. He said efforts should be invested to control COVID-19 and promote sustained recovery. He also proposed that the COVID-19 response fund should be well utilized and the regional reserve of medical supplies should be operationalized to raise ASEAN response capacity. He also pointed out the need to promptly help the people and businesses restore production and return to their normal life in order to speed up economic recovery. Organizations, associations, and well-wishers have been making donations for COVID-19 prevention, control, and treatment. On Wednesday, Japan-Myanmar Association donated 301,000 masks to Myanmar Embassy in Tokyo for COVID-19 prevention, control, and treatment in Myanmar. Myanmar ambassador accepted a donation and presented a certificate of honor to the chairman of Japan-Myanmar Association. According to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, the donated mask will be transported to Myanmar. Authorities and medical professionals have been making efforts for COVID-19 prevention, control, and treatment. In Rakhine State, there have been COVID-19 recovery cases. Till the 8th of September, the number of positive patients who have recovered from the disease and were discharged from hospitals in Sitwe, Budatown, Chao Phu, Nyebon, and Mrau is 100. Most people infected with the COVID-19 virus will experience mild to moderate respiratory illness and recover without requiring special treatment. Older people and those with underlying medical problems are more likely to develop serious illness. And I believe it's time now for our first report. There are 2,000 passengers taking the highway trains a day at Yangon Central Railway Station. The number of the passengers taking the highway trains are dropping up to 1,000 passengers a day, which is the half of the normal passenger rate. In the case of City Circular Railway, there are about 11,000 passengers a day in the weekends and about 14,000 to 15,000 passengers in the weekdays.
Railway in Myanmar is the mode of transportation by providing the commuters with a smooth and cheap traveling. Myanmar Railway runs for the two main parts of the rail lines, the city and highway trains normally. During the resurgence of COVID-19, MR will run its rail lines normally but with reduced carriages, according to U Zolwin, Deputy General Manager of Traffic Number 7 Division of Yangon and MR.
Just before the resurgence of COVID-19, there are about 90,000 to nearly 20,000 passengers a day. Since the beginning of September, there are about 11,000 passengers a day in the weekends and about 40,000 to 15,000 passengers in the weekdays. In the case of City Circular Railway, there are 54 routes of trains running for a day. We aren't going to reduce the routes of trains for City Circular running for this month despite the decrease in the number of passengers. So, the passengers can take the City Circular train safely and comfortably by following the social distancing regulations. There are 2,000 passengers taking the highway trains a day at Yangon Central Railway Station. The number of the passengers taking the highway trains are dropping up to 1,000 passengers a day, which is the half of the normal passenger rate. So, we have to reduce the number of the carriages in the trains. We have given instructions on the prevented guidelines for infection in the stations.
Uzalwin also mentioned that the passengers have to follow the instructed healthcare procedures exactly to prevent the infection, and so they can perform as much as they can for ensuring convenient and safe rail transportation. Uzo Taiwen, who is the chief ticket collector of Yangon Central Railway Station, spoke to MI Radio about the health guidelines issued by the Ministry of Health and Sports they are following. He said,
The
officers are performing the processes of checking temperature to the passengers with thermometer gun. As soon as we find the abnormal temperature, we inform the respective medical teams. And we did not allow the passengers who are not wearing the face masks to enter the station. But the passengers can buy the mask from us with a reasonable price.
Wu Zhaowen is a passenger and he shared his experience of taking the train.
I
have traveled to Yangon for family matter, but I have been stuck in here for months. Now I am going back to Mandalay. So, I have prepared the medical recommendation letter for traveling. Traveling with trains for long distance is much more convenient for me, especially the new airbag frames are more comfortable while traveling. And the service and the hospitality of Myanmar Railway are also improving. I usually travel, but now I will have to stay at home after this as much as I can.
The
Yangon Circular Railway contributed 168 circular runs a day, with the use of a total of 21 trains carrying about 50,000 passengers before the COVID-19 outbreak. Currently, there are about 54 city circular trains running a day with about 15,000 passengers.
That's the report on MR to provide a regular rail service with reduced carriages. As transportation can be stopped completely, there are still normal highway bus lines running around the country by following the guidelines of MOHS despite of fewer passengers. The YRTA is also reporting to the government on the inconveniences of the highways in the face of declining bus routes and that there is currently a reduction in the one-way toll of 4% on round trip.
As a consequence of the resurgence of COVID-19, the passengers have been regularly decreasing, especially in domestic highway bus line. The number of the travelers is dropping to only 5,000 passengers for nearly 30,000 passengers with 600 bus lines running at Aomingala Highway Bus Terminal, said Ubamye, who is in charge of highway bus terminals, Aomingala Highway Bus Terminal and Tagong Ayer Highway Bus Terminal.
The number of passengers is obviously decreasing due to the resurgence of COVID-19. Many townships, regions, and states around the country have been restricted with stay-home regulations or semi-lockdown. The public are also considering traveling, and only the passengers for essential reasons are traveling. The passengers are decreasing in number. The number of buses and bus routes are also dropping remarkably. For example, the people have to be contained at quarantine center.
As their transport cannot be stopped completely, there are still normal highway bus lines running around the country by following the guidelines of MOHS despite of fewer passengers. Nay Pyi Taw, highway bus ticket seller of Nay Pyi Taw highway bus line said,
We used to sell all tickets for the seats out, but we can sell the tickets for 2 seats to 1 passenger. So the total number of passengers on the buses is just around 15 to 20 ones for 1 route. We haven't stopped the operation since last May. We will have to run the highway buses, although the government issued an announcement despite of the fewer passengers. We haven't still got any permission to close our highway routes yet. Our bus line is in the normal condition without changing any schedule, and all are still good right now. After the resurgence of COVID-19 infection, our duty is not to have too many passengers while they take our bus line. So, selling 2 seats for only 1 passenger is the main difficulty. We will stop running our bus line only when the government announces.
Although the highway bus lines are running to all the regions and states, the government announced to stay at quarantine center for Nay Pyi Taw routes. So there is no passenger for Nay Pyi Taw bus routes. There are only 230 bus lines running during this period, but 400 bus lines run before the outbreak of COVID-19, according to Ula Ao, Joint Secretary of Yangon Region Transport Authority.
There are no passengers as they have to be quarantined entering Nay Pyi Taw. However, some of the buses are sending freight to Nay Pyi Taw by following the instruction of the MOHS. The bus line sector dropped again depending on the situation on the 16th of August in Rakhine. During the COVID-19 period, we used to go to all regions and states except Rakhine State.
The YLTA is also reporting to the government on the inconveniences of the highways in the face of declining bus route and that there is currently a reduction in the one-way toll of 4% on round trip.
That's the report on highway bus service to all regions and states except Rakhine goes on amid COVID-19 resurgence. The COVID-19 pandemic is spreading fast to almost all the countries in the world, severely affecting all businesses. For that reason, all businesses have been changing their system and methods to regain stable conditions. In Myanmar, the book market has to struggle with a hard situation even in a normal period. The COVID-19 period and the book market is seeing a worse situation. To change the present situation, most of the bookshops are jointly engaged in developing an online selling system besides the normal selling system. Year 9, Heyman Len and Naole reports.
The coronavirus disease is spreading rapidly all over the world and seriously affects economic stability. Therefore, all the businesses have been changing their system and methods to regain stable condition. Also in Myanmar, the book market has to struggle with hard situation even in normal period. Now it's the COVID-19 period and the book market is seeing worse situation with a lot of difficulties in demand and supply, and some bookshops cannot withstand anymore. So as to change the present situation, most of the bookshops are jointly engaged in developing online selling system besides normal selling system. Now online selling system is much in demand, noted by U Thon Thon Tan, owner of Collab Book Publication and Distribution.
The orders are mostly online and it gets a lot of fans. The sales from the online increase and decrease alternatively. According to the percentage, we can say that the sales from the online are rising and so do the orders. To open a bookshop, the good books must be collected and we must have good dealings with the customers. If there are 10 customers in the shop, they can be given service by the steps. But for the online, the services need to be offered individually. So, the wrong user of words and the bad services are really obvious, and these can be mistaken. We have to be careful with the business as there are a lot of competitions.
Not only literature, fiction, and classic books, but also historical and religious books are being sold through online system, which can reach far-flung areas, so we have to pay special attention to market situation and service. The books which are ordered from online are delivered through the service of post office, and some books are being sent by delivery services. Matete, sales staff of Sape Loka 2 said.
We
carried out delivery services from the post office. There are just a few customers who came to the shop. However, there are orders from the online and over the phone calls. For the time being, the online sales are at the average. We can sell books to at least 10 persons per day, and that is the normal rate. Sometimes there are more orders than normal. The orders, books for health and the fishing books get more order as the people are stay at home. There are more orders from the rural areas. We usually do not get much order from Yangon, but now the orders from Yangon are also increasing as people are staying at home and reading books. The habit of reading books is becoming popular. At the same time, online book sales market is increasing and becoming a better trend, as well as it is leading to competition. Utontonta, owner of Collab Book Publication and Distribution, said.
I believe that the books which are worth reading and having excellent qualities will be sold surely. No matter we publish 500 books or 1,000 books, all these books were sold again and again. But for the poor quality books, these are not in good sales. There are many opportunities in online book markets, and there are many online books lovers. At present, we have tens of books ordered every day. We have door-to-door delivery services for customers. All the customers have to do to order is to give their names, phone numbers, and address so that we can provide door-to-door services. Now we have a lot of books due in to sell. We have to plan to publish books amid COVID-19. The books which are worth reading will be surely sold as soon as it has been published. So I don't worry about it.
Now the book sales condition is gradually decreasing in some shops, but some shops have seen an increase of 30% compared with last 3 months ago.
That's the report on online selling system gains popularity in book market during COVID-19 pandemic. It has been about more than a week. The entrance to Nay Pyi Taw has been strictly restricted with the aim to control the widespread of COVID-19 infection. In this effort of containing the virus, Nay Pyi Taw Development Committee Guest House has been playing the essential role for putting the people in quarantine facility till they are safe to go into their community. Willinson from Nay Pyi Taw has the full report.
It has been about more than 1 week since the restriction imposed by the government, where staying at quarantine center and taking swab tests are needed before allowed to go into the community in Nay Pyi Taw. Since then, Nay Pyi Taw Development Committee Guest House has been used as the quarantine center for the people coming to Nay Pyi Taw from different parts of Myanmar. According to the report by the officials at this quarantine center, as Nay Pyi Taw is the capital city where the seats of the government officers are concentrated, half of the people who stay at the quarantine center are civil servants and another half are non-civil servants. Dr. Zinweyang is the officer in charge at this facility quarantine center and speaking to MR Radio about the latest situation of the update, and she said,
လက်ရှိအချိန်ထိပေါ့နော်ဒီလက်ရှိ up to date အရာဆိုရင်တော့ကျမတို့2ရက်နေ့ညနေကစပြီးလက်ခံနေပေါ့နော်
We started to receive the people from the evening of 2nd September. 1,052 persons have been received at this facility till 8th September. But the number is constantly changing while we are talking. There are people on the way coming here, and we can see a few people waiting here for their allotment of the rooms. More than 440 persons have been sent back to their respective places within Nay Pyi Taw after taking swab tests and making that they were safe to go home.
As there is not enough gene expert machine to run the results of swab tests here in Nay Pyi Taw, the samples collected here in this facility quarantine center are sent to Yangon NHL by the vehicle, which took about 1.5 days to get the results. About 170 to 200 swab test samples are collected here in this facility quarantine center daily, which got sent to Yangon NHL for further results. Normally, taking swab tests begins here at 7 a.m. in the morning till afternoon. By then, all the samples are being packaged carefully to be sent to Yangon NHL. According to the report by the officials, since 2nd of September, there have been 3 COVID-19 infected patients here in this quarantine center. Speaking further on the updated guidelines from the respective officials for the quarantine period here in this facility, Dr. Zinwei also explained more.
For the quarantine period here, the civil servants coming from stay-at-home places must stay here for 1 week and take swab tests for twice. But for the common civilians from the same area, they must stay here for 2 weeks and take swab tests twice. But for those who have contact with infected patients, they must stay here for 21 days. They must also take swab tests for twice. For civil servants with no contact with infected patients or coming from the places where stay-at-home is not applied, they got registered on their arrival, and on the next day they must take swab tests. And then, when the results are out, if the results are negative, then they are safe to leave the center, which means they will stay here for about 3 days only.
It is also reported that half of the people in this quarantine center are civil servants and another half are common civilians or migrant workers along with the locals from Nay Pyi Taw. Speaking further on how important this quarantine center for containing the spread of the virus, Dr. Zinwei also explained.
Quarantine the containment strategy
The basic concept of putting people at quarantine center is containment strategy, where before they let the travelers go into the public, we test them of possible infection, which is like screening them whether they are safe to go to the community or not. And if any of the suspected cases has the virus, we can transfer the patient to 1,000-bedded hospital for further treatment, and we could do contact tracing. So taking the tests can effectively help us control the further spread.
The public are warned that as it is quite expensive to stay at quarantine centers and the cost of swab tests is quite costly, the public are encouraged to stay in their places without traveling to other places.
That's the report on Facility Quarantine Center in Nay Pyi Taw. Now we move on to international news. United States President Donald Trump admits he knew how deadly and contagious the coronavirus was, but played it down because he did not want to create a panic in audio recordings released on Wednesday from interviews with veteran U.S. journalist Bob Woodward. Trump said in an interview with Woodward on March 19th, according to a preview of the book Rage, Trump said in an interview with Woodward on March 19th, due to publish on the September 15th, he said, quote, I wanted to always play it down. I still like playing it down because I don't want to create a panic, end quote. Though Trump himself has admitted he played the epidemic down in the recordings, the White House press secretary Kayleigh McEnany told reporters on Wednesday that, quote, the president never downplayed the virus, end quote. The Russian Foreign Ministry on Wednesday said it had summoned German ambassador to Russia, Geza Andreas von Geer, and expressed a strong protests in connection with the quote, unfounded accusations and ultimatum, end quote, related to the alleged poisoning of Russian opposition leader Alexei Navalny. The ministry also accused Berlin of an, quote, obvious use of the situation that has arisen with it as a pretext for discrediting our country in the international arena, end quote. It said in a statement that Moscow also demanded that Germany provide Navalny's medical examination results and test samples for the comprehensive study by and verification of Russian specialists, the statement has said. The statement said Russia will regard the failure to provide the materials as a refusal of the German government to establish the truth and its actions in connection with Navalny as a, quote, gross hostile provocation against Russia, fraught with consequences for Russian-German relations, as well as a serious complication of the international situation, end quote. Chinese State Councilor and Foreign Minister Wang Yi on Wednesday said the United States is becoming the, quote, biggest driver of militarization of the South China Sea, end quote, and the, quote, most dangerous factor damaging peace, end quote, in the region. While attending the 10th East Asia Summit Foreign Ministers meeting via video link, Wang noted that the U.S. sent nearly 3,000 sorties of military aircraft and over 60 warships to the South China Sea in the first half of the year. The United States has undermined China's efforts and the Association of Southeast Asian Nations to negotiate disputes and stirred up a confrontation among countries. Wang pointed out, adding that this will develop into the most dangerous factor against the peace in the region. Wang reiterated that peace and stability is not only China's biggest strategic interest in the South China Sea, but also the common strategic aspiration of China and ASEAN countries. The South China Sea is not a geopolitical arena, Wang stressed, urging the U.S. side to respect the regional countries' will instead of creating tensions for its own interests. That's all with the news and reports on Myanmar Today. Hope everyone is staying safe.